This is the story of Saint Aidan. We remember him with blue. Blue for Aidan, who was born in Ireland and came across the sea by boat to Columba's monastery on Iona. I wonder why we remember Aidan. Aidan was a monk, a holy man of God. One day the king of Northumbria, King Oswald, a good man who was close to God, asked Aidan and some monks from Iona to help him tell the story of Jesus to the people of his kingdom. Aidan came to the king's castle at Bamborough, but soon he saw that the best place to build his monastery was on Lindisfarne, an island that was not an island, near but separate from the court of the king. It was to be a house built on prayer, and many people, including children, came to this house to learn. Aidan was made Bishop of Lindisfarne and walked on foot far and wide to visit his people. He helped them build churches and schools so everyone could learn about God. He liked to keep his feet on the ground and to be close to his people. One day the king gave him a fine horse. Aidan was not sure about this, but he didn't say no to the king. He hadn't gone far when he met a beggar who had lost everything and asked for help Aidan could give him. Aidan got straight down from the horse and gave him to the beggar. Aidan was gentle and good and trusted in God. He helped people know how much God loved them, and he told them all about Jesus so they too could share his story with others. And they did. We remember Aidan with the symbol of a stag because people told this story about him. One day, as he was walking, Aidan came across a stag caught in thicket by its antlers as it fled from the hounds. Somehow, Aidan was able to make the stag invisible and saved its life. At the end of his life, Aidan was still walking, following the way of Jesus and caring for his people. One day, in late summer, he came to a stop at the church in Bamborough. Sitting down and closing his eyes to rest, there he died, in the year 651. We remember Aidan because he began something for God on the holy island of Lindisfarne and helped people follow Jesus. This is the story of Hilda. We remember her with purple. Purple, the colour of kings and queens, because Hilda was a royal princess. I wonder why we remember Hilda. Hilda was born in Bamborough Castle and grew up there. When she was a young woman, she went to live with her sister, who had become Queen of East Anglia. Hilda was always close to God. She became a nun so that she could learn more about God and look after God's people. Later, Aidan himself asked Hilda to become an abbess and to come back north and build a new monastery at Whitby in Yorkshire. In Hilda's monastery, men and women lived in a holy community in peace and gentleness. Hilda was known for her great wisdom and grace. Everyone who knew her called her mother. She loved to study the Bible and teach all kinds of people. Kings and rulers and ordinary people too came to her for advice. When the church needed to hold an important meeting called a synod, it was held at Whitby under Hilda's wise and gentle counsel. You can still see the abbey at Whitby today, high up on the cliff, and it is said that the seabirds tip their wings in honour of Hilda when they fly over. We remember Hilda with her symbol of 3 stone snakes, or ammonites, because people told this story about Hilda. That one day, a plague of snakes came out of the sea and began biting people. To save her people, Hilda turned them to stone. Perhaps you have seen these stone snakes or ammonite fossils in the cliffs at Whitby. We remember Hilda because she was wise and full of grace for God, and at the Synod of Whitby she helped lead her people for God. This is the story of St. Cuthbert. We remember him with red because he loved God with all his heart. I wonder why we remember Cuthbert. Even as a little boy, everyone could see that Cuthbert was close to God. People said he was a holy child who would do great work for God. Cuthbert became a shepherd and looked after his sheep in the borderland between Northumbria and Scotland. When Cuthbert was 16, one night something amazing happened. He saw a great light in the sky and thought he saw someone who had died being taken up into heaven by angels. The next day, the news began to spread that this was the night when Aidan had died at Bamborough. Cuthbert knew God was calling him to begin his work, and so he became a monk, first at Melrose in Scotland, and then at Ripon in Yorkshire. Cuthbert was close to God and wanted to help people to come close to God too. After the Synod of Whitby, Cuthbert went to look after the monks at the monastery in Lindisfarne that Aidan had begun.
Cuthbert liked to come close to God in the space and silence of the island. Sometimes he would spend hours in God's company. Sometimes he would wade out into the sea and stand up to his neck in water so that he could be completely on his own with God. People say that the birds and animals looked after Cuthbert because they knew how holy he was. One day, when he came out of the water shivering with cold, sea otters swam up out of the waves and wrapped themselves around Cuthbert's feet to dry them and make him warm again. Cuthbert was also friends with the ravens and the eagles, who sometimes brought him food. Cuthbert didn't want to be important, he just wanted to love God. But when the people kept asking him, he finally agreed to be the Bishop of Lindisfarne, just as Aidan had before him. For 2 years, Cuthbert walked all over Northumberland to tell people about God's love, just as he had once walked the hills, taking care of his sheep. Cuthbert wore a special golden cross round his neck, and you can still see this cross today at Durham Cathedral, where Cuthbert is buried. Many people visit Durham to remember Cuthbert, who was called by God from looking after the sheep to be a shepherd of people, and whose symbol is a shepherd boy. And many people visit the holy island of Lindisfarne to remember Cuthbert, and who was loved even by the animals, and who was holy for God, and loved God so much.
This is the story of St. Bede. Remember him with green for Bede, who is known as the Venerable Bede, which means worthy of honour. I wonder why we remember Bede. Bede loved learning. When he was 7, he went to learn many things at monastery at Wearmouth, near where he was born. He learned that God was calling him to be a monk, and he loved spending his days learning about God. He loved praising God with music, and he loved the beauty and splendour of the monastery church. When Bede was 9, he went to be a monk at the new monastery at Jarrow by the River Tyne. There he learned about stone, wood and glass as the fine new church of St. Paul was built. The church was finished in the same month that Cuthbert was consecrated bishop in Lindisfarne. Bede always loved God and always loved learning. He read all the books in the great library at Jarrow, and he wrote many books too. He learned all about the world beyond from the many travellers who sailed in the Tyne and stopped for a night and rest at the monastery. Bede was a scientist too. He noticed how the tide changed in the phases of the moon. He described how the world was a globe at the time when most people thought it was flat. He recognized that there was a northern and southern hemisphere, different arrangements of the stars, different climates. And he identified the elements of earth, air, fire and water. Bede was a great teacher and wrote books of history that were still used today, and he wrote a book called The Life of Cuthbert. It is of St. Bede that we know so much about Aidan, Cuthbert and Hilda, because they are all found in pages of his books. We remember Bede because he loved God and loved learning. His symbol is a jug of water with a light coming down from heaven. Bede's thirst for knowledge was a gift from God. We remember Bede because he shared all he learned with us so that we can learn about God and our world too. So here are 4 of the Northern Saints. There are many more, but these help us remember the story of how God comes close to the people in the northeast through the lives of Aidan, Hilda, Cuthbert and Bede, whose stories still speak to us today. I wonder which story you like the best. I wonder which part of all the stories you like the best.